Welcome to the Leadership Labs with DeepRec.ai, a podcast where we delve into the fascinating world of deep tech entrepreneurship, company founders, and venture capitalists. I'm your host, Anthony Kelly, and I'm thrilled to have you join us in this exciting journey. In each episode, we explore the minds behind groundbreaking technologies, the visionaries who dare to push the boundaries of innovation, and the investors who fuel the growth of tomorrow's game changers. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today's guest is Georgios Gkekas, who is the CTO of Vent.io. On this episode, we're going to talk about the importance of internal career frameworks, why they're important in a business, how you can define these roles. And we'll talk about building high-performance teams and talking about the importance of diversity within the team and how that helps to balance the skill sets. But look, before we do that, Georgios, we want to hear from you. We want to hear about your background. What got you into tech and how are you here?
Well, yeah. First of all, thanks a lot for inviting me to this podcast and giving me the chance to talk about things that I'm interested in and actually very excited about doing and talking about. You already introduced me with my name, and I know there are people that struggle with pronouncing that name. I come originally from Greece, and this is where it all started. Actually, I studied computer engineering and informatics, and I consider myself being actually engineer by heart. Although I have now a leadership position, being the chief technology officer of Vent.io, a corporate startup in Germany. Myself, I'm an engineer, and I've always had this passion. I always liked actually building things. There are so many anecdotes from my childhood where my parents tell me, yeah, you actually was getting a present, cars and remote controlled cars, and you would like actually to take them apart and build them again. And this is what actually defines me. I like understanding how things work. I like building up stuff, and I always had a passion for the digital world and also robotics. And this is where I am. I'm to get into a field that I've always wanted to get into, and this is how it all started. Exactly.
Nice. When was your sort of first experience with computer programming?
It was not very early. Nowadays there are kids doing their first steps in programming. So I have to admit that I was quite late in doing so. I think it was around when I was 16 or 17 years old where I discovered a very old PC from my father. I don't know if some people will even know this kind of manufacturer. It was called Amstrad, and it was actually just a monitor, a big fat monitor, as people were knowing it from the past days, like the TVs. With there also a kind of cartridge input, and you could just power it on instantly, and you could start. You were getting prompt into a prompt that you could just start getting into basic programming. And this is where I did my first program, simple mathematical function, something like this. And then my first professional program was actually written during my studies a bit later. Yeah.
Nice. Since then, you've navigated your career working through some businesses like Ericsson, ING, Deutsche Leasing, and most recently the CTO of Vent. Look, what has it been like? ING, Ericsson, rather large companies to corporate startup. How does that feel different?
Well, it is not. I mean, there are some differences, definitely, but the corporate world has always actually followed me. There was one moment in my professional career where I actually worked for a company that you wouldn't really consider it a big corporate. It was a scale, a startup, like on its way actually to scale more. Now it belongs to a bigger corporate here in Germany. um, well, the difference is now that, and this is also the challenge at the same time, because me in the role of CTO, I really have to make sure that we organize ourselves in such a way that we create also the environment, the cultural, let's say, environment for a corporate startup. Challenge is to make on the one side a speedboat that abides by this kind of cultural values and speed characteristics of a startup, without on the same time jeopardizing the relationship to the mother company. We are a corporate startup belonging to a bigger group here in Germany, and we got actually the mandate to drive the digitalization of their businesses in certain areas. We have a very concrete mandate, so it's in certain areas. And in the end, we need to provide value to the whole group. And, if we would about to ignore this kind of environment where we have a big, let's say, a tanker moving extremely slowly in the waters of digitalization, would about to actually embark on our journey and do it the way we want, then we would lose, of course, the relationship. We would lose actually our stakeholders. So this is a bit of a balance that we have to keep there. And the differences are that we are actually a company that tries to abide by all these new ways of doing things, new work, also embracing technology and change much more differently and faster than what corporates do. That we bring a kind of a different mindset. We bring also a kind of different set of cultural values, because in the end, the cultural values are not just, a set of nice things that you put on a PowerPoint presentation in order to say that I'm doing it good. I mean, it shouldn't be at the end a kind of new work, mumbo jumbo, but it should affect actually the way you work, and it should shape the collaboration model within the company. And this is the main difference there, that we have to create a kind of different guiding principles and rules on how we work, but on the same time, looking up to a slower organization and see how we can help them in order to provide value to them.
Nice. Good. So tell us about Vent.io. What do you guys do?
Vent.io has been founded 2.5 years ago, more or less, like in January 2020. And this has been a decision of the top management of the Deutsche Leasing Group, which is our mother company. And they said at some point, we believe that we need to actually build a kind of isolated group of people, not really isolated, but we need to create a kind of a different legal entity, like a corporate venture, creating new business models and creating digital products in there and place them a bit further away from the organization. It's not actually something new. There have been a lot of companies out there doing it, some more successful than the others. There are also people who say that this is not the right way to do things. A lot of companies have tried it and it didn't work. On our side, we can say after 2.5 years that it works somehow well. Actually, what we do is that we have two business models, so to say, on our side. In one business model, we build the digital products for the customer and partner touch points and data science solutions for the Deutsche Leasing. So we try to optimize the processes. We try also to build the next generation customer and partner facing applications of Deutsche Leasing in order to win also the customers of the future and to offer more and more services in a digital way. Like portals, web applications, ecosystems, and stuff like that. But also, as I say, apply AI with our data science disciplines in order to offer more value. And although it might sound a bit, let's say, not so interesting, it's still important even in 2023, because Deutsche Leasing, what you need to know, is the biggest leasing services or financial services provider in the area of leasing, like asset-based financial services in Germany, and one of the biggest in Europe, but in the B2B area. And B2B area doesn't follow so fast in the area of digitalization like B2C. In B2B, a lot of things, especially in these big projects, when, for example, you would like to lease, I don't know, a huge property now, stuff like that, because we are in B2B area, a lot of things happen again through the interpersonal communication and through connections, so to say. And there are a lot of companies that are finding it difficult to digitalize, let's say, the interactions with the customer and the partner. But this is something that we have identified as a group that needs to be done, that also the customers of the future will not be the same. And this is what we have been entrusted with. So on one side, and this is the first business model I explained. We need to build these products. This is where I am. Like as a chief technology officer, I need to guide and drive the technology department of Vent.io in order to build these things completely in-house. Like our mandate is that we do the things with 100% internal resources. And the other part is that we need to engage into providing ideas about new business models that could enhance actually the traditional business of Deutsche Leasing and offer either new services or value-added services on the existing products. And we do this by conducting on the field POCs, proof of concepts, with selected customers and partners, where we try to validate actually an idea and see whether it works and people would embrace it. And on the other side, by investing, because we have also a small fund and we do investment management, by investing in startups that have, let's say, potentially a business model or a product that we consider that could help us actually in the future. So yeah, quite a lot of things I would say for a corporate startup. But in the end, if I would like to summarize these two business models into one, is that we actually have to secure, so to say, the interactions with the customers of the future for the Deutsche Leasing. And we always have we turn our, let's say, our attention not so much to the Deutsche Leasing, although they are our main stakeholders, the ones who founded us and fund us. But in the end, we work for the end customers and partners of Deutsche Leasing, and this is where we have to. And this is exactly also the mandate that we got from the top management. So all in all, this is what we do as Vent.io.
Nice, good. So you've got in, I guess. They put in the people who want to innovate, said you guys go in the room. If you've had no restrictions, the handcuffs are off, and you could build technology, what would you build? And then that's sort of how Vent.io came about. It's good. Look, I firmly believe venture builders work. Spin-outs. Spin-outs come out, some of the most successful companies spin out of universities. It's not that different, right? They're purely research. They then have to build products. So it is a little bit similar in many respects. But I understand. So look, from your side, it's quite nice, right? You have access to users. So biggest challenge running a startup. Will the users use my product? Will the users like my product? The users almost have to respond to you and give you feedback because it's part of producing that ROI for Vent or for the research. How have you sort of worked with that, right? You have access to the users. You don't know what to build. Where do you go then to say, right, how do I add impact here?
So the answer here is first to the first question, yes and no. We do have sometimes access to the final users, sometimes also not, out of different reasons, sometimes also out of political reasons. There are sometimes like Deutsche Leasing acts in some projects as the middleman, saying, yeah, we will actually take care of the customer and partner relationship, and we will give you actually this project, and we say we know how to do it. In many cases, though, we have also the direct access to the users. As I said, we are conducting POCs directly with customers and partners, because a partner is a kind of a different, I would say, stakeholder in this whole ecosystem of the Deutsche Leasing Group, but is an important, part of the equation, because partners bring in also a lot of business. A partner could be, for example, a big company in Germany that would like to offer its own customers financial solutions. For example, it could be a construction company not a construction company, a manufacturing company building devices, industrial equipment, own customers' ways to finance or lease the product. So they are also kind of mediator. They are very important actually in this whole equation. And sometimes it's difficult because we have to do with small and medium enterprises in Germany who are struggling a bit to embrace the idea of the modern ideas of building products. For example, concepts like conducting a POC, investing in certain things, or even following the fail fast approach, because not everything needs to work, right? We are here to innovate, and out of the 10 ideas that we try, we should find the two that bring us forward. These ideas and these concepts are sometimes difficult to be embraced by them. And this creates some challenges also on our side. The most important part here is actually, and I don't know if I'm answering now the question, but it's also part of the whole, let's say, topic, is to find the appropriate people that could, from which you get the buy-in. You can approach them and say, yeah, we have here an idea, or we can understand actually your pain points out of the dialogues that we have had with you, out of your answers and the interactions we have had. And we think that with this idea, actually, we can go forward. And once you find these people, you need then to engage into very small steps in which, in a very, very, very small scale, without having actually an amazing business case, can provide on the qualitative side, or you can prove that you will have business value. This is the most important thing. You need actually, it's all about persuading the people in the end for engaging into that. And again, as I said, in the B2B area, it's a bit different because we have to do with all these kind of mediators and partners in there that approach in the end the customers. But if you win those people there, especially the partners, and they can engage with you in a long-term journey, and you persuade them, just this is the biggest hurdle, then you definitely can also then win the customers. And in the end, it works.
Nice. Do you face many internal political battles? Is that something that you've had to learn?
Yes, but it depends also what you want to say about this. Like in the end, politics has to do with different opinions, with diversity. We come back also to the topic of diversity. It has to do also with your background, where you come from, what you have experienced, and every person or every department or whatever, every kind of small organization within a bigger organization has its own agenda as well. And in the end, it all comes down to their own interests that you're following. In the end, what I have seen and understood took me some time, but in the end, it is really that nobody is actually, let's say, bad or would like to harm you. Like sometimes when we are facing political problems, especially people coming from the engineering world or the technical world, they think that the people on the other side cannot understand them, or that they are bad and they want to harm them. It's not that. It's that it is actually, it lies in the nature of the things that different departments and organizations within a company have their own interests. They get the goals, even from higher above. And sometimes these goals are conflicting. So for example, innovation, let's be honest, is not the best friend of the risk department. No.
Never.
But the risk, exactly. So, but the risk, it's a typical battle. But the risk department is a very valuable department in companies, especially in financial services. And it's not only important, it's valuable and important at the same time. And they have actually their justification to be there. And yeah, you can interpret this as politics. These things exist, but in the end, it comes down to communication. It's very important. That's why it's important also nowadays in technical organizations. Like I'm leading a bunch of engineers and data scientists, technical people that tend to focus too much on the technical skills, and they are important. We also say there is a kind of bar under which you cannot be. We make sure also during our interviews that you shouldn't be under this bar, because the hard skills here are very important in order to be able to produce the things that we want. But in the end, the soft skills, sometimes like communication skills, like the ability to abide by cultural values, and the ability to cooperate with people with diverse backgrounds, is equally important, if not even more important. And that's why we come also to this topic of the soft skills, and we need it more than ever actually in our disciplines.
Okay. Nice. So yeah, let's talk into let's move on. And I wanted to ask about the internal career framework. Um, Now, naturally, you being the CTO, you wanted to create this for your engineers, something that holds big value to you. I'd like to look. I know many companies have it. Many companies do it differently. So let's start off and go quite basic. What is a career framework to you?
Yeah, exactly. So that's a good question, actually, because career frameworks can be defined differently, as you have already noticed. They can be interpreted also differently, and they are not something new. They have been existing there since decades. It's I don't know when the first time was that actually a career framework was ever introduced into a company, but I can
Well,
imagine it has
if
been.
if you look back at the
So,
Egyptians, you could say there was
yeah,
a career framework because there was rulers.
exactly, correct.
Cleopatra wasn't lucky, right?
Exactly, correct. Yeah, and most companies, or let's say in the 80s or 90s, companies were defining the career framework in terms of a kind of set of roles and responsibilities, or the definition of those, and perhaps of the different seniority levels that you could have in every role, and the salary ranges and the salary structure attached to it, in order to have a kind of way to say, yeah, well, this is what you would get as a salary if you would be at this level, and this is what you would have to do there. This would be your responsibilities. And I tend to believe that back then there was also a need from the corporations and the companies to motivate people also to do more. Like they were, I'm sure they were having also discussions about and salary negotiations with their employees, and then they wanted to have a kind of a tool in their hands to say, well, yes, we can do that. You can get a pay rise, but in order to have that, you need to do a bit more.
It's very simple. It's the carrot and the stick, right? Here's the carrot.
Exactly,
You get better, you get more money. Here's the stick. Work harder.
exactly, exactly. Exactly. And this is how it has been treated in the past. And I think that quite some companies most probably do it like this also nowadays. But it's a bit more than that, actually, to me. It's more than that because, at least in my experience, with the interactions I have with my engineers, but also with potential candidates, we are past the point where we have to motivate people to do more. Actually, with almost every individual and good engineer that I'm coming in to have a kind of interaction, there is an intrinsic motivation for him or her to move forward and to advance their career. So that motivation is not anymore on the employer side, but it's on the employee side. Actually, it's on the people themselves. They are asking, and sometimes very early, even in the first interview ever that you have. Like I'm getting asked, um, when would I be able to become a senior, or how many seniority levels do you have? When would I be there? Do you have even, I mean, I get even, in my opinion, some awkward questions, but they are valid. I don't want to say that they're stupid. No, there is no stupid question, but they are a bit awkward to me because they ask things like, do you have fixed time points during the fiscal year where you make such decisions? And I say, there is never an appropriate time actually to make such a decision. And at the same time, there is always an appropriate time to make such a decision. In the sense,
I
so
wanted to ask you, Georges, do you find more recently, so let's say 80s, 90s, mid junior, mid level senior, and I find that I've seen a little bit of a change throughout my career in recruitment. The role is now determined on value add and less on years of experience.
exactly, correct. This is what where I wanted to get into also, and this is what I'm then saying to everybody. I'm trying to communicate as far, not as much as possible, and I will never get tired of communicating. Although experience remains, and it's important to say that it remains one of the main factors to actually promoting to advance your career. It's important to get actually all these kind of touches, these kind of you know events and learnings throughout your career. This is not an automatic way of promoting your career. It doesn't mean that, for example, after 4 years and after showing some loyalty to this company, you will get promoted. There is not such thing. You need to provide the value, as you said. This is the most important thing. And this is how actually now career framework should be should be defined. You need to have a kind of it is a framework, as we say, so which means that it is a set of guidance, let's say guiding principles, a set of definitions, roles, tools and processes that all play together in order to show to a person when you are actually entitled to go to the next level, and what it means. And the way we have done it is very, very similar actually to the famous Dropbox career framework, where actually we define for every level, seniority level, from the personal perspective, what the person can do. So one of the things that we have there, for example, for a senior data scientist, is that we say, I am able to track the state of the art machine learning developments in areas related to my team's work, and when beneficial, incorporate this into my projects. So this is how we try to formulate in order for people to empathize and identify themselves with that. And then they find it easier also to translate it for themselves. And in there we have 3 dimensions. It's like a matrix. And the 3 dimensions are the hard skills, the soft skills, and the cultural values, or let's say the abidance to the cultural values of Event.io. Because I can also not emphasize it enough, hard skills are important, and you need to have a minimum bar and a minimum set of requirements there in order to do engineering work. But in the end, soft skills and cultural values are equally important, if not more. And we need to make it clear to them. So yes, to your statement, there is no clear rule or path to that, or an automatic way of getting promoted. You need to provide value. But this kind of provide value, you need to communicate it very clearly to your workforce, and you need to give them all the tools, information, and time to understand it first, and also the possibility, unbiased possibility, to reach those things. And that's why a career framework nowadays needs to be a bit more than a set of just roles. You need that are defined in the salary range. You need to have all these things around it, also tools and processes. You need to incorporate it into your one-on-one meetings, into your feedback loops with the people, because in the end, if it's just a kind of paperwork for you that you can put on the wall, or on a digital wall, let's say,
Yeah.
in Miro Conference, and you expect that everybody will read it, nobody will. And it's actually your job as a leader to make sure that people understand it and read it. It's not, okay, I did it. This was my part as a leader.
Yeah.
If you haven't understood it, it's your problem. No.
I like that. I like the way that you loop that back into the career pathway is looped into, the regular monthly one-to-one, even look mid-month reviews, if they're going on, weekly touch points. You can say, oh great, you've done well here, you can improve this a little bit more. I think you're getting close, right? I can see why it's very beneficial for the employee, right? It's very, very good. Now I'm going to flip the question on its head for you, Georgios. A lot of work goes into doing this, into doing it well, one-to-ones, communication, having it. What do you get out of it? What's your benefit?
Oh, my benefit. Oh, there are a lot of benefits. Actually, I have to be honest here with you. It is not something I did in the beginning when we started the company. Actually, there were also other priorities when you start a company, and
Of
you need to
course,
set
yeah.
up a lot of other things. But it came out as, I would say, a necessity. So I I like following the mode of learning by doing somehow. So the benefit I got out of it is that sometimes I I thought actually that it was clear through just the job descriptions to my people when they would be ready to go to the next level. And I started observing in my one-on-ones and feedback appointments with them in these discussions, where we were also tracking the performance and the achievement of the goals of each individual, that many high potentials who would like actually to go a bit faster to the next stage were actually demanding to be promoted. And they were actually asking the question,
Can I
what do I
can,
miss?
can
Yeah.
I ask, were they performing to the level you expected of them?
So can you repeat that? I didn't get the question.
So the high performing individuals, were they
Yeah,
performing to the high performing levels that you expected, or were they a little bit less?
exactly. This is the point. Exactly, that is the point. So from their viewpoint, they were actually performing perfectly. And they could
Okay.
argue about this, but it was not exactly that what I would expect from an individual that would be ready to go to the next level, whatever this next level is, because there are different seniority levels. We have the juniors, the normal ones, the staff engineers, the seniors, the principals, okay? So, and this is exactly where this kind of framework comes in and helps the leadership team actually to have something tangible in the hands to say, look, on that and that point, actually, you still have some work to do. And I will help you with that. Actually, you as a leader can identify much easier the gaps that every individual have. And these gaps are not just there in order for us to, let's say, defer the promotion. No, it's about we need to actually to make sure that we have all the necessary skills and qualities in our teams that would help us actually achieve our goals. So in the end, it helps us achieve our own goals that we have set, arrive at our strategic place where we want to be at the vision. And by having such a framework, the discussion becomes much easier because you can point out the things that are still missing and you can define actually a path on how to resolve those, how you would like to support the individual. This is one. And the other one is also you are able to communicate this and articulate it clearly to your workforce, to the engineers. Because if you don't have it, and you get actually challenged with the question, what do I miss? And you are not really prepared because, all these things that you have in mind, you cannot put them in simple words
I guess
at this point in time.
I guess those become awkward conversations then very quickly. It's like, hey,
Exactly.
I should be senior, I should be principal, I should be mid level. I was
Exactly.
like, and then at that time, they're not there. But unless you have, as you said, the framework, if you have black and white, this is what mid level senior principal is to me, right? You have 8 out of 10. You need to be 10 out of 10. Let's work
Exactly.
together. I was going to loop it back, but I was going to say, like, how can you introduce this into a personal development plan, right? Because you also want to take them from the next level, but you have that clear framework. Then are you then incorporating this sort of skill gap into their monthly review, into their personal performance plan?
This is something where I need to do a bit more work because actually this career framework, at least for the engineering team that I have developed now, because we need to have also other career frameworks for the other disciplines we have in our company. But at least the engineering career framework has been developed recently, and now it's more or less its final form. And it is something that I will definitely incorporate. I cannot now say that it is already there and I have done it, but it will be definitely incorporated into the performance review discussions, and it needs to come into alliance. Actually, it needs to get aligned also with the targets that are set on every level, on every individual level, and say, actually, well, what is actually the achievement of this target? The targets on our side are, in most of the cases, defined in the smart way. So they are specific, measurable, accurate, all this stuff. So you can actually say how much you achieved. The most important thing there is to say, well, by achieving this target by this percent, what kind of qualities you used on your way to achieve it that come actually out of this career framework. And then we can see where we have the white and where we have the black spots on that. So
Nice.
it's a kind of different tools that you have then in your hand to do this. And yeah, uh,
It
uh,
gives a very simple black and white in what you're missing, black and
yeah,
white in where there's training and upskilling to happen.
exactly.
Nice.
And one important thing is because it relates to the question you made, how somebody should incorporate this into the daily job, is that um, it should be structured, it should be formalized, as you said, also in these reviews and the one-on-ones. But you shouldn't be afraid, in my opinion, or you shouldn't be reluctant in incorporating also in ad hoc discussions. So the moment that something happens in a project where you see, let's say, something that could be improved, I think that it is very important and very beneficial also for the individual that experience this kind of deficiency to know that, hey, look here, this is what I mean actually. You see, this is something that you could improve on, and this is what actually would bring you to the next level.
Yeah.
And by having this kind of immediate and spontaneous feedback loop, you use also, let's say, the time vicinity of the event to make the thing, to make the exact corrective path, let's say, much easier to understand and to be absorbed by the other person and work on
Do
that.
you find then if you're doing it ad hoc, we would call it like on desk coaching, right? Or you might say
Mhm.
work shadow someone that's doing another task that you might not know as much about, right? They work really well. For me, I found that the one-to-ones and the development plans that I do with my team, they're much more actionable. We spend less of the meeting talking about what you should do, and it's more about what you have done. Do you find the same?
So you mean, just to understand the question, you mean that such a framework would help you also to make your one-on-ones more actionable, or?
Yeah, so they come across as much more actionable because
Mm.
if in this case I'm dealing with recruiters, but in this case an engineer, they go out of one meeting, let's say in March, and they're missing black spots, and then by the end of April, they've been self-studying, they've been dealing with some other colleagues that are doing it. You're correcting them or giving them feedback throughout the month. So then when you come back for a review in April, it's it's like, oh, it's not like, oh, I still don't know. They're coming in, they're excited. I want to tell you what I've done on this. You said I was missing this the last time. I'm not there yet, but here's what I know now. And then you can mark against that instead of coming in and saying, I find it a lot harder to actually talk about non-tangible actions. If you say I want to get better, oh, you need to be better at Python programming, right? I need you to be able to do this. It's there's a lot of steps in it. Oh, I'm not there yet, but here's how much closer I am. It's a lot easier to talk about the steps that you are closer.
Correct. That's correct. That's correct. Yeah, and there have been also in situations where in the one-on-ones we have been doing a kind of more retrospective analysis, as you say, looking a bit in the past and finding things that were not done or things that were done nice, but we were not having a clear path how to move in the future. Although there, I have also another tool that perhaps, yeah, would a bit go out of the scope of the discussion that I incorporated some time ago, which is about the career development canvas, but it plays very well into these whole topics. And you are right. By having these things and also a career framework, it can help you make the one-on-ones more actionable, definitely. And it is important that you get out of these meetings with your manager and you have the feeling that you know what is next to be done, and control and command way in the sense of, yeah, on the operative level what you need to do, because the good engineers know what they need to do actually in order to provide value to the company. But what you need to know from your manager is what you need to do in order to become better and to provide sustainable value to the company, how to create more qualitative products and not just products that work, for example, how to collaborate better with your teammates, how to improve your communication skills, how you need to adapt actually your messages depending on the audience that you are actually targeting now. And all these things that are described in the career framework help you then to create this, as you said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, let's quickly talk about building teams. We've spoke about some things to you, hard skills, soft skills. We've spoken about diversity. Let's start off and focus on diversity. What do you consider diversity? Some people have different categories for it, but when you're building a team
Yeah.
around it, what do you consider?
Yeah, for me, actually, diversity is not the traditional definition of it, where you have actually a ratio of men versus women and stuff like this, although it is important. And we are doing quite a good job there. I mean, somebody can go also on our website and see the whole team and how many females we have also in the engineering team. I'm quite proud of that because you don't find it very easily. But the diversity for me, I like the question, is more than that. Different opinions, different characters, different behaviors, different personalities, and different ethnic groups, backgrounds coming together and working all in one, or let's say not necessarily in one project, but working all along each other for achieving a certain vision. And it is in the multitude of personalities and opinions that you can find real value. It is one of the things actually that I learned the hard way. In the past, I was not like this when I was a bit younger and inexperienced. I thought that hard skills were the most important thing to have. Traditional, typical engineering mind. Yeah, of course, I know. I learned it the hard way, as I said, and I'm changing. And I really see the benefit of having different opinions and different behaviors. We actually came back now as a whole company. The whole Vent.io was 2 or 3 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, in an offsite where we did a team building event, and we talked exactly about this thing, which was about understanding each other and understanding the different personalities. I don't know if you know this kind of concept of the 4 colors or the disc personalities test.
Oh,
Exactly. This we did this.
I do, I do. I'm red, yellow.
Red, yellow. Okay, bit
Yeah,
similar to me.
yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, look, it's mindset differences, it's different backgrounds, and I mean, you guys are building products, right? It's building products that people use, people around the globe. You look back and you think, I know it's a very extreme example, but Facebook, when they had a non-diverse team, quite famously, they built the CV scraping tool or CV scanning tool that would automatically accept or reject CVs before the recruiters seen them.
Mhm.
And whatever way the tool was built, it was rejecting a lot of female candidates. And they didn't build it to reject man or woman. It actually went into looking at the topics or their interests, right? It was things like female hockey, um, cheerleading, and it was like these sort of topics that were actually getting or causing like the rejections, not names and not man
Yeah,
woman.
yeah.
But that is fundamentally, you stick 8 guys in a room and they're like, oh great, 8 engineers. What does a good CV look like? 8 engineers are going to be like probably what you were like early in your career. Hard skills. That's all that's important. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it was a very good exercise also for us to see how the teams and the groups that we have actually inherently in the teams. Like, for example, I have a team consisting of 15 engineers at the moment, but we have 3 groups there, 3 streams, 3 chapters, as we call them: site
Yeah.
reliability engineering, data science, and software engineering. It was very interesting to see that we have quite a good diversity in everything. It was also something that was unknown to me. Of course, I can say, or I can have my own opinion or kind of own imagination how people behave, which is not always true, unfortunately, because we cannot really understand everybody. But it was good to see there after doing the test that you have this diversity. And we could also see that some teams that have been struggling, that have actually members that have been struggling to communicate with each other, have been also the most diverse. And this is where I said, yeah, but guys, actually diversity in this sense on that level, like accepting different personalities and opinions, is not amusing. It is painful. It is painful also for me when I have to work with another manager or another person from the leadership team being a completely different color, so to say, a different personality. It's difficult for me because we think different, but it's exactly this kind of different angles and points of view on the same topic that can bring us forward. And this is where actually our patience needs to come in, our kind of reflection on the topic, where we get a bit angry and emotional. There are some people that are a bit more emotional than others. They should step a bit back. They should do it actively and say, wait a moment, perhaps I don't see the whole picture here. Perhaps the other person has also a point of view. And if I
Yeah.
think about his personality or her personality, these are the reasons or the motivations behind it that they make him or her act in this way. And I hope that it will help us. I say I hope because there is a long way ahead of us. Working with people is not easy, but it's exactly in the team orientation, in the team work, actually, that the power lies. And it's important, yeah.
Nice. Talk about the hard skill, soft skill match. Something that you've you've worked on, you've learned more about as times went on. What do you what have you learned?
Oh, that's a very big question, actually. Well, as I said, hard skills are important, definitely, in certain areas, in engineering, a bit more than in other disciplines. But soft skills are also extremely important because there is no project currently, even on our side, where we don't have this kind of large scale project, but we have small to mid scale projects that consist of one person. So you will never be a lone ranger doing something. You will always be working with other people. And this is where the soft skills come into. But the soft skills also help you, even if you were alone doing the project, they will help you deal with your stakeholders, deal with your managers, deal with your customers. And it is a hard thing if the question goes in this direction that you say, what have you learned out of it and how you can actually assess the people? It's very hard to assess actually the soft skills or the capabilities of an individual in this area out of a short interactions you have during the interviews. There are active questions that we have there and some kind of use cases that we do during the interviews in order to try to see and understand a bit the personality behind the person. And by doing so, we take into account, as you said, also with Google, we take into account already also uh, the consistency of the targeting team, like what if it was actually for a site reliability engineer, what do we have currently in site reliability engineer? Do we have all blue guys or all red? And one more red wouldn't do well into that. So it's actually something that we do actively, but it's quite difficult to assess. Proof on this is something I have learned is the kind of perception, like self-awareness and being able to understand also the other people in the same group, but also actually um, communicating effectively and clearly your ideas, and also being able to perceive and understand the messages that the other person is saying. So I have been in my position. I had now the luck to be confronted with situation where two people were talking actually about the same thing. They were actually meaning the same. And in the end, they were fighting very hard with each other because everybody was believing that wanted something
Sounds,
different. It
sounds
was
like me and my
also,
girlfriend.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it's
Wow,
it's
this can happen.
it's so easy, you know. Sometimes I think you've really hit it on the head there. I'm from Ireland, she's from the UK. The way we talk, you know, you might be about to talk, you might speak it in a long way to get to the finish line, but they might have the same idea and be more direct. But if it's even little things like that, it's all
Yeah,
even the
exactly.
same idea, but giving a little bit more time. That's a simple example of communication where it's not wrong, but can seem wrong. Um,
Exactly.
some people explain it with 11 steps. Some people explain it with two. Right, same thing. It's
Exactly.
quite common. No,
Yeah.
I love that. It's hard to assess. I totally agree. I mean, the best chance you have at trying to get it is competency based interviewing. But as someone who interviews, I'm sure you know yourself, it's being a good competency based interviewer is its own skill, and that's also tough.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah.
But look, I wanted to finish off, Georgios. I've got some quick fire questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Nice,
Go
nice.
ahead.
Go quickly. What would you do again differently if you could do it all again?
I don't know how how far away in the history I have to go with that, but what I would definitely do differently, if even I would start again now, if I had to start again my career, would be to put a bit more focus on developing earlier my soft skills and understanding these things really, because as I said, I was a guy who was really concentrating too much on the technical skills. I need to know about technologies. I need to have a mentor next to me to tell me how to code correctly, to learn about architecture and patterns, and be a big kind of a futurist and visionary in these things. But I would have actually preferred to have a mentor that would have taught me actually things like, well, you need also to do a bit of stakeholder management. You need to understand the other people. So this thing, and it has to do a bit with soft skills, but to look a bit, to go a bit outside of the comfort zone and to look a bit over how you say it, like over the horizon and say,
I like to say, look behind the curtain.
Yeah, exactly. Look behind the curtain, because always the German expression was coming to my mind and I was trying to translate it, but it was not correct. Yeah, exactly. Look behind the curtain. And I'm definitely sure now, and it can be also an advice to young aspiring people in this area, that it would have brought me much faster, or it would have advanced my career much faster than it currently is.
Yeah, fair. Book, podcast, or content that you would recommend to other listeners?
Yeah, then again, the same advice. Actually, there are two very good books. So one a bit more modern than the other. The older book is from Dale Carnegie, who gives a lot of provides a lot of anecdotes and tips on how to win friends and influence people. I find it really a brilliant book.
I actually thought I had it over there. It must be in the kitchen.
It's great. And the other one is from Jacob Morgan, which goes more in the direction of leadership and talks about the future leader. It defines all this, actually, a set of mindsets actually that future leaders should have, and makes a thesis that the leadership will change in the coming years dramatically. It will not be the same as it has been before. And it all has to do actually with all the socioeconomic advancements that we're experiencing out there, also with artificial intelligence coming, and we need new qualities, and it provides a very good guidance on how leaders should be. And it is not only about disciplinary leadership now, like being a manager and having positions like us, but leadership in the end, it's a quality and a personal behavior. You can lead actually also in a group of friends, or you always lead with your behavior also in your personal life. And this book is very good in describing actually these qualities and mindsets that somebody should have in the future.
Nice. Final question. What are your 3 non-negotiables when it comes to leadership?
Oh, yeah, well, as a leader, and I find myself actually providing this all the time, but it's something I also like to do. It's that you need to have a vision and a strategy, and you need to define it. I mean, I have seen really some, not a lot, but some companies who are a kind of a bit on an automatic way of operating, and they tend to focus too much on the operational side of the things. But you need in the end to be able to answer the question, why are you doing all that? So defining a vision and strategy, putting it down in simple words, and having the ability to disseminate it, explain it to the rest of the people, it's very, very important. It's one of the non-negotiations, because in the end, the people need to know why the heck we are here and we do all this stuff. And believe me, this will help them actually be more successful and provide better products. Second one is that, again, when it comes to this vision and strategy, you need to be consistent with that, and you need to make then decisions that are, as I said, consistent and go in this direction and not have exceptions, or at least not so many exceptions. And you should always be transparent of that. And in this way, you lead by example. Then you prove that you are actually sticking to your own plan. And it is the best way actually to persuade and convince the people that it's a good plan. And the third one is actually, which comes also from this book that I propose, The Future Leader, is that you need to be brave and embrace change.
Nice. Look, maybe we'll have someone on talking about the process of change management. I've recently been through something like that myself, done a training session on it. I really understand that, how important it is. But Georgios, really, really enjoyed it. Thank you for your insights on career frameworks and building high-performance teams.
Thanks as well, Anthony. It was a pleasure also for me as well.
That concludes another enlightening episode of the Leadership Labs podcast. If you found today's episode thought-provoking and informative, be sure to subscribe to the Leadership Labs on your preferred podcast platform or on YouTube. Thank you once again for joining us on this journey through the Leadership Labs. Until next time.